A late-night ring, an unseen woman, and a billion-dollar agreement dangling by a thread. Most people breeze by the janitorial staff without sparing them more than a glance. You notice the uniform, the cart loaded with supplies, the quiet figure, making sure the floors gleamed, but you almost never stop to think about the human being pushing that mop. Tonight's tale follows one such person, a woman who thought the night ahead would be routine. Instead, she walked straight into a moment that would rattle the foundation of one of the nation's largest corporations. Her name was Darlene Whitaker, 58 years old, born and raised in Toledo, Ohio. She wasn't showy. She wasn't loud. She wasn't the type to boast about achievements. Darlene carried herself with a steady kind of dignity, even when overlooked by the world around her. She raised 3 kids mostly on her own, often juggling 2 or 3 jobs at once, never grumbling about the endless bus rides back home. If anything, she shouldered her hardships the way one carries heavy grocery bags with a solid grip. No fuss, never asking anyone else to take the load. That evening, she was on the 23rd floor of Hawthorne Global's towering headquarters in downtown Detroit, wiping desks and emptying bins in offices, where weekly salaries dwarfed her monthly pay. Nearly 7 years she'd worked this overnight shift, always prompt, always wrapping her rounds before sunrise. But something about this night felt different. The floor was hushed to hushed. Beyond the giant glass windows, the city sparkled. Below, the Detroit River, black and dotted with lights like scattered jewels. The air conditioning whispered steadily, but that wasn't what drew her focus. It was the phone, ringing, once, twice, again and again, loud against the silence. Darlene froze, staring at the CEO's desk. The screen glowed in the dark, showing an unfamiliar country code. Her brow furrowed. She wasn't the kind of woman to meddle where she didn't belong. She'd seen plenty of people lose their jobs for being nosy. After all, who would expect the cleaner to pick up the CEO's line? Yet the sound gnawed at her. Ring, pause, ring again. Whoever was calling wasn't quitting. Nearly midnight now. Her cart squeaked closer as she edged toward the desk. Eyes fixed on the phone, her hand hovered, then retreated. She muttered, "Girl, don't be dumb," under her breath. But the ringing persisted, daring her to answer, and in that exact moment, high above a city fast asleep, Darlene Whitaker's life veered off its quiet track, because when she finally lifted that receiver, she wasn't just tidying an office anymore. She was stepping into a conversation that would decide the outcome of a billion-dollar deal. She had no idea yet. But truthfully, the story doesn't begin with that call. It begins with Darlene herself, who she was, how she lived, and why. She was the last person anyone would think could rescue a company like Hawthorne. Global Darlene's path had never been smooth. She grew up in Toledo in a neighborhood where every dollar had to stretch, where resourcefulness wasn't a choice but survival. Her father worked at the Jeep plant until his back gave out. Her mother earned what she could caring for other people's children. They weren't poor in spirit, but money slipped away faster than it came. By her teenage years, Darlene knew college wasn't an option. She hustled at diners, laundromats, and supermarkets, always keeping a little money in her pocket. Then came children, 3 of them each, with dreams, struggles, and needs of their own. Their father was unreliable, some weeks present, other weeks gone with flimsy excuses. Darlene stopped waiting for help that never came. She turned to cleaning work because it was consistent, and consistency meant survival. It's not glamorous, but steady. She could clock in, get through her tasks, and head home without anyone breathing down her neck. Most importantly, it kept food on the table. Now her kids were grown, 2 daughters in their 30s, 1 son in his 40s, all with families of their own. They called, but visits were rarer than she wished. Sometimes loneliness crept in on those long rides back to her modest apartment on Monroe Street, but she'd remind herself better lonely than helpless. At work, she stayed focused, not one to linger in the break room or trade gossip with other cleaners. She worked with quiet rhythm, vacuuming halls, polishing glass doors, gathering the abandoned coffee cups of executives too busy to clear them. Yet silence never dulled her awareness. She noticed junior staff stiffen when Alexander Hawthorne, the billionaire CEO walked past. She noticed executives' sharper tone with secretaries than with clients. She noticed meetings that dragged late into the night, voices carrying terms like contracts, projections, deadlines. She didn't pretend to know everything, but years of listening left things lodged in her memory. That night, before the phone cut through the silence, she was moving through her usual checklist emptying bins, straightening chairs, wiping down polished surfaces. In the CEO's office, she paused, her reflection staring back from the floor-to-ceiling glass. Sometimes she wondered if anyone in this building even knew her name. To them, she was just the cleaning lady in scene, replaceable. She sighed, tugging the trash bag free. Her knees ached, her hands worn rough by bleach and scrubbing pads. Thoughts drifted to the bills at home: rent, utilities, her youngest granddaughters. School fundraiser she wished she could contribute to, but couldn't afford. Darlene never complained aloud, but the weight pressed in at quiet moments. Still, she kept moving always forward, one small step at a time. But life doesn't ask if you're ready before it throws a test at you, and hers was already waiting in the glow of that blinking phone. Hawthorne Global was no ordinary company. To Detroit, it stood as a gleaming emblem of wealth, technology, and progress. Its headquarters dominated downtown, a fortress of steel and glass dwarfing smaller buildings. For most, walking inside was like crossing into another universe. For Darlene, it was just her job site. She didn't care about the polished marble lobby or the security guards in tailored suits. She didn't care about the scent of expensive coffee drifting from the executive lounge. What mattered was finishing her shift and catching the last bus home. Still, she noticed the way the place breathed during the day and hollowed out at night. By daylight, the corridors buzzed with chatter, deals, heels striking tile, printers humming. After hours, that energy died, leaving silence so thick even the smallest sound cut sharp, a chair groaning, a phone vibrating, her mop bucket rolling. The CEO's floor was the strangest of all, everything larger, shinier, pricier, sleek desks, museum-worthy chairs, even the trash bins gleamed metal instead of plastic. Darlene sometimes chuckled to herself, imagining the pens in those offices cost more than her entire week's wages. She'd seen Alexander Hawthorne only a handful of times tall. Early 50s, salt and pepper hair, always immaculate in his suits. He wasn't loud, but when he spoke, everyone listened. She remembered crossing paths once as he strode by with two aides. He never glanced her way, not unkind, just as if she were invisible. That was life inside Hawthorne Global, Darlene working quietly, ensuring perfection for people who never noticed her. Yet she listened closely. She caught fragments of talks about clients in Germany, investors based in Switzerland, and suppliers from South Korea. She memorized names of people she had never actually seen. People whose signatures on documents carried values in the millions. It felt like being at the edge of a storm, near enough to sense its force, but distant enough that no one expected her to step inside. Still, from time to time, she asked herself, what if I sat at one of those desks instead of wiping them down? What if I made the decisions instead of sweeping around the ones who did? She forced the thought away, but that wasn't her world. Her world was reliable wages, long bus rides, and late dinners eaten in silence. But that night something felt off. Papers lay scattered on Hawthorne's desk, highlighted sections glowing on a contract she couldn't decode. A glass of water sat half full, as if abandoned just hours earlier. She moved with care, careful not to shift anything, though her eyes lingered on the words she couldn't quite string together. Her cart squeaked faintly as she rolled it toward the hallway. Before she reached the next office, the noise returned. The phone ringing. It cut through the room like a demand. She turned back, her gaze narrowing on the glowing screen. The number stretched long, filled with digits and codes she didn't understand. But she recognized one fact. This wasn't some telemarketer calling at midnight. Her chest tightened. She dropped her rag and stared. Curiosity, though, has a way of drawing you in. And this time, Darlene wasn't just tidying up. She stood at the edge of something far larger than she could comprehend. The ringing continued. Pause. Ring again, each sound louder. pounding in the CEO's office like a warning siren.
Alina.
Hesitated in the doorway, rag still in hand, heart hammering harder than she liked to admit. She whispered to herself, "Don't answer, Darlene. This isn't your concern." She reached for her cart, ready to wheel it away, but then another rang. Her feet stayed planted. What if it mattered? What if something was wrong? No one else was upstairs, and the guard downstairs wouldn't know what to do with such a call. She always promised herself not to interfere. But this felt different. Slowly, as if her body moved before her mind decided, she stepped back into the office. The phone glowed again, unfamiliar digits glowing across the screen. She leaned closer. "France," she murmured, squinting at the country code. Her hand hovered over the receiver. She imagined losing her job if anyone discovered she had touched it. But then, another thought struck her, how urgent someone must be to keep calling at this hour. Her fingers closed around the handset. She lifted it. To her ear? "Hello?" A sharp breath came from the other side, followed by a man's voice, hurried, heavy with an accent, strained. Finally, someone answers. "Is this Hawthorne Global? This is Stefan Klein from Munich. I've been calling for hours. Where is Alexander?" Darlene froze. She nearly slammed the phone down, but something in his tone kept her their panic urgency. Clearing her throat, she stammered, Mr. Hawthorne isn't here? Just the night staff." Stefan groaned. "Listen, this is serious. The contract, someone altered the wording. This cannot stand. If it's not corrected tonight, by morning, I walk away. You understand? Billions are at risk. I cannot." Her head spun. Billions.
Contracts.
What was she doing even holding this? Call she had no business being here, and yet she didn't hang up. Her grip on the receiver tightened. "Sir, I'm not who you think I am. I don't deal with contracts." "I don't care who you are," Stefan cut in, voice cracking with frustration. "You work there?" "Yes." "Then you tell Hawthorne this deal dies at sunrise, unless someone explains the changes. Do you hear me?" Her gaze fell to the desk, to the scattered papers. Highlighted passages glowed under the lamp. She remembered circling around them while cleaning earlier. Without thinking, her hand drifted to the stack. Balancing the phone between her ear and shoulder, she lifted the top page. Words swam together, legal jargon, figures. But one line snagged her attention, something about exclusivity rights. She didn't know the full weight of it, but last week she'd heard an executive in the elevator complaining that clients despised that clause that had trapped them too tightly. Swallowing, she said, "Mr. Klein, I'm no expert, but I think I see the issue. This part about exclusivity, maybe it wasn't supposed to be changed." A pause, and Stefan's voice came again, steadier, almost relieved. "Yes, exactly. The original deal had no such clause. Someone added it. If it stays, my board will refuse outright." Darlene shifted uneasily, glancing at the doorway as though someone might storm in. "I can't fix this for you, but I can make sure your message gets through. Don't worry, I promise that much." Stefan exhaled sharply. "You must. Tell Hawthorne or everything collapses. I don't want to fight. I want partnership, but not like this." Darlene nodded, though he couldn't see. "I understand. I'll make sure he hears first thing tomorrow. Just hold on until then." The line went silent for a long moment. Then Stefan spoke softly. "All right, I'll wait. But no later than tomorrow." Click. The call ended. Her hand trembled as she lowered the receiver. She stared at the phone like it had scorched her palm. She didn't know what she'd just stepped into, but she knew it was far from small. By morning, someone powerful would learn she had answered. Darlene stood frozen in the CEO's office, the phone still warm against her skin. She should have left it. She should have gone back to her cart. Then the phone rang again. She jolted. The same number. Pulse racing. She grabbed it. "Hello? What? Whitaker? Yes. You said your name was Whitaker." Stefan's voice was clipped, steady, but edged with steel. "Listen to me. This must be taken seriously. The contract is a disaster in its current form. You understand what happens if I walk away? Hundreds of jobs in my company depend on this deal. She held the receiver tighter to her ear. Mr. Clean, I'm just the cleaner. I don't know much about contracts, but I heard you, and I believe you. I'll make sure Mr. Hawthorne gets the message. No, Stefan snapped. A message isn't enough. Tell me, are they trying to cheat us? Did they change that clause deliberately? Darlene bit her lip, her eyes on the highlighted passages on Hawthorne's desk. She didn't know the whole story, but she remembered overhearing two executives bickering in the hallway last week. Something about forcing the exclusivity clause through, even if the client resisted. She hadn't thought much of it then. It clicked. She inhaled slowly. Mr. Clean, I don't think they're out to cheat you, but maybe someone here got greedy. Maybe they thought you wouldn't notice. Silence hummed on the line, followed by a low growl of anger. This is what I feared. They treat us like fools, like we never read the fine print. Darlene leaned against the desk. Look, I can't answer for them, but I do know this Mr. Hawthorne hates losing good clients. He'll want to fix this. Give him the chance. Her tone was steadier than she felt. Stefan exhaled sharply, static buzzing in her ear. Why should I trust you? You're not a lawyer, not an executive. You clean floors. The words cut, though she'd heard worse. Darlene straightened. You're right, I clean floors. I also pay attention. And right now, I'm the only one answering this phone. If you walk away tonight, no one will know why until it's too late. If you wait until morning, Hawthorne can respond. You owe yourself that much, don't you? Line went still. Her hand trembled on the receiver, afraid she'd crossed a line. Then Stefan's voice returned, softer. You make more sense than half the executives I deal with? Fine, I'll wait. But only until sunrise. Let him the exclusivity clause. Is unacceptable. If it stays, we leave. Relief rushed through her. I'll tell him, I promise. Do not break this promise, Whitaker, Stefan warned. I'm risking everything on your word. She swallowed. I understand. You'll have your answer, click. The call ended. Aline set the receiver down carefully, her heart pounding. She stared at the papers, at the phone's glow fading to black. She had just spoken to one of Hawthorne Global's most important clients and convinced him to wait. Her knees weakened and she dropped into the CEO's leather chair, one she'd never dared touch. For a brief moment, she felt the gravity of what had happened. She wasn't a lawyer, not an executive, just the cleaner. Yet she had saved $1 billion deal at least for the night. She rubbed her face. Tomorrow, when Alexander Hawthorne arrived, she would have to explain. She didn't know if he'd thank her or fire her, but deep inside, she felt something. She hadn't in years pride. Fragile, fleeting pride. And morning was coming quickly, bringing truth with it. By the time the sun broke across the blinds of the 23rd floor, Darlene had finished her rounds. Exhaustion dragged at her, but her mind wouldn't rest. The call replayed again, and against Stefan's anger, the warning of billions at stake. Instead of leaving, she lingered by the CEO's office. Normally, she would have slipped out before the first executives arrived. Not today. She had to see it through. At 7 sharp, the elevator opened. Alexander Hawthorne stepped out with his assistant, who carried a tablet and folder. His sharp suit and unreadable stare made Darlene's throat tighten. She wasn't supposed to be here. She wasn't supposed to speak. But when he entered his office and noticed the phone off the hook, her body reacted before her thoughts. "Mr. Hawthorne," she blurted, her voice shaky. He turned, narrowing his eyes. "Who are you?" She swallowed. "I'm Darlene. I work nights, cleaning staff." His assistant gave her a puzzled look, then back at Hawthorne. His jaw tightened. "Why are you still here?" Her palms sweated. She clutched her rag. "Sir, last night." The phone rang. A client from Germany, Stefan Klein. He was furious about a Clause A exclusivity. He was ready to walk. "I told him to wait for you." The assistant frowned, flipping through his folder. Exclusivity clause? That wasn't approved? Hawthorne's gaze pinned her. "You answered my phone?" Her stomach dropped. "Yes, sir. I know I had no right. But if I hadn't, he would have pulled the deal. I couldn't ignore it. The room froze." She braced for the firing she expected. But then the assistant muttered, "Urgent, she's right. The exclusivity clause wasn't in my draft." Someone slipped it in. Hawthorne's expression darkened. He turned to the window, then spun back. "Get clean on the line now." The assistant hurried to dial. Hawthorne stood firm, but his eyes flicked to Darlene. "And you? What did you tell him?" Her knees weakened. "I told him not to walk yet. I said you'd want to fix it. I promised you'd get answers this morning." Studied her for several long seconds. Then Stefan's voice exploded from the speaker. "Hawthorne, finally? Oh? Do you know what kind of night I've had?" Hawthorne raised a hand. "Mr. Clean, first, thank you for your patience. I've heard about the issue." "You heard? From who?" Stefan barked. Hawthorne glanced at Darlene. "From someone I should have noticed long ago." Her heart skipped. Hawthorne's tone hardened. "That clause should never have been there. It will be removed immediately. The deal stands as agreed." Stefan's voice eased. "Good, then we continue. But next time, Hawthorne, I expect respect." "Understood," Hawthorne replied. "You have my word." The call ended. The assistant rushed out, already phoning legal. Only Hawthorne and Darlene remained. His eyes softened. "You saved this company from disaster, Miss Whitaker. Do you realize that?" Her mouth opened, but no words came. He stepped closer. "Most people here wouldn't have dared do what you did," you answered, when no one else would. "And because of you, we still have our biggest client." Recognition burned in her chest. For years she had been a shadow in those halls, unseen except for her mop and cart. But now Hawthorne's gaze was locked on her. She wasn't invisible. "Do you grasp the weight of what you did last night?" he asked. She clutched the rag like a shield. I just answered the phone." He shook his head. "Wait. No. You steadied one of the toughest clients we've ever had. Stefan Clean doesn't wait. He doesn't forgive. You held him long enough. For me to repair this, that's rare." Her voice was soft but firm. "I didn't want him to feel ignored. People hate that." Hawthorne paused, studying her as if truly seeing her. "You're right. It's ironic, isn't it? Someone we overlooked here just taught me a lesson I should have learned long ago." His assistant returned with updates, but Hawthorne waved him away. Alone again, he leaned on his desk. "Tell me, Miss Whitaker, how long have you worked here?" 7 years, she answered quickly. 7 years, he echoed. "And I never asked your name. Never looked beyond the uniform. That ends now. You reminded me everyone matters here. Everyone." Her eyes stung. He continued. "I want to offer you something, not charity recognition. You have instincts most executives lack. Sit with our staff this week. Share what you notice. Sometimes the best insights come from those no one listens to." Her throat went dry. "Me? Sit with executives?" He smiled faintly. "Yes, you." She thought of all the nights spent invisible, cleaning messes, overhearing conversations. That confirmed how far she was from that world. And now, she was being invited in. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Say yes," he replied. Her hands shook. "Yes." He extended his hand. She hesitated, then shook it. His grip was firm, respectful, not pity. "You taught me something important, Miss Whitaker," Hawthorne said. "Titles don't define worth. Actions do. And last night, you acted." For the first time in years, Darlene felt something rise inside. She wasn't just the cleaner anymore. She was Darlene Whitaker, the woman who saved Hawthorne Global. In the weeks that followed, whispers spread. Executives talked about the deal that almost collapsed, the client who almost left, and the cleaner who answered the phone. Darlene never boasted, not to her children or neighbors. She had only done what felt right. But people treated her differently. They greeted her by name. They asked her thoughts. Hawthorne himself acknowledged her every time. He didn't give her riches or titles, but he gave her respect, something she valued more. For once, she wasn't invisible. One Friday evening, waiting for her bus, she looked out at the city lights over the river. She thought of that call, how easily she could have ignored it, told herself it wasn't her job. But she hadn't, and everything changed because of it. Life doesn't always give warning. Sometimes it comes as a ringing phone, a moment that feels too small to matter. But how you answer that defines you. Darlene Whitaker proved no one is truly invisible. Maybe that's the lesson for all of us. Don't underestimate the overlooked. Value isn't only written on business cards or paychecks. Respect is earned through action. So next time you pass someone cleaning, bagging groceries, or working a job most ignore, remember you never know whose quiet hands might save the day when no one else can.